I was Googling Task Force Kampas, and I see now that it's with a K, but man, they got to work on their search engine optimization here, because unfortunately there's a lot of information relating to campus task forces and things like that. And
I don't even know what that is.
Like, on campus, we have a task force about this and that at a college.
Yeah, campus. I'll make sure to specify that when I talk, how to spell it when I talk about
campus with
it.
A K.
And an A.
And an A.
Campus. But
it's like
that game
totally
is
different word.
Yeah, you would love that game, I think. And yeah, you would love every game I'm going to talk about today, actually.
Awesome, good. That's how it should be.
So, and you own them all.
I know. That's another reason why I want to get a new computer set up.
Hey everybody, Kevin here with Pursuing Pixels, and this is episode number 61, and my name's Kevin Portelli, and I'm here tonight with Randall Nolery.
Hey everybody.
And it's just the two of us tonight. John's sitting this one out while his wife is using the computer, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. And before we get into warming up the mics here a little bit, I just want to make a quick correction from last week, because I talked about a bunch of games from Daniel Linssen, and I forgot. I mentioned 3 games that were not included in the itch.io bundle for racial justice and equality. Yeah. But he did have a game called Breaker that was included in that bundle, which is kind of like I'm not really even going to talk about it. I recorded a video as part of that 15 minutes a game series that I'm doing.
Yeah,
but it's like kind of like a Pong meets Ikaruga meets Breakout or Arkanoid a little bit. You kind of control a paddle that just if you're moving, I forget what it is. No, if you're moving to the right, your paddle will turn red. If you're moving to the left, it will turn blue.
Oh, whoa.
And if you'll have enemies in the center of the screen, and you're kind of rotating around like a circle. Like your paddle is like rotating around the circumference of a circle.
Okay.
And the enemies will shoot, if it's a blue enemy, it'll shoot out blue projectiles, and there'll be, some that'll shoot out like 3 quick shots, some that'll shoot like a spread shot. And then, they're either red or blue. And you can only, you take damage if you're the wrong color, and you can project them back at the enemies towards the center of the screen if you are the correct color.
That sounds really cool.
It's really fun, yeah, and it's like just total arcade high score action. Like, seems to be kind of randomly generated. Like, there'll be kind of a wave of enemies, and then a boss, and then a wave of enemies, and then a boss, and they just keep getting harder and harder. But it's almost like bullet hell action. It's really, really fun. Totally different from the other Daniel Linssen stuff I talked about last week. So I just kind of felt bad that I kind of like specifically mentioned like, hey, these weren't included in the bundle, and like he definitely did include a game in the bundle.
He did his part. He threw one in there.
And he, again, I just want to reiterate, he has like well over a dozen games, and I've played at least, not all the way through, but I played 5 or 6 of them.
Wow.
And they're all awesome, really unique art styles, really unique mechanics. Just the guy is a genius.
Seems really creative, like all these individual concepts.
Yeah, like every game is like a totally unique concept.
Right.
He's awesome. I'm really excited to just continue to follow whatever he does and check out more of his old stuff. But
that's cool.
But I know there's been a couple of games to get away from the itch.io stuff for a little bit, although everything else I'm going to talk about today is all from that bundle.
Not away for
although
too
it is
long.
available elsewhere. But I know there's been a couple of updates on some Switch games that we've been playing, and one that you've played for the first time, Randall. So take them in whatever order you see fit, but I know you've been playing a couple of games on the Switch lately.
Yeah. The first one that I do want to talk about is one that I definitely haven't just played for the first time. It's one that I pretty much have played since it's come out, at least weekly, if not daily or every other day, and that's Animal Crossing. So, Animal Crossing New Horizons on Switch, they just updated it to add swimming. So now you can go out in the water.
Cool. Were you able to swim in previous Animal Crossing games, or?
I don't want to say definitively, but I really don't think so. I've played the GameCube and DS ones to death, and you definitely could not do that in either one of those. It
didn't look familiar to me either.
No, to best of my knowledge, this is like a whole new like gameplay concept for the Animal Crossing series.
Nice.
Which is really exciting, and a free DLC update, something that they, I think, are just doing to kind of throw more content at players because this has been such a runaway success. New Horizons has on Switch. But yeah, it was so exciting to see that, and yeah, it allows you to collect all new things in the sea, where you pull up your phone. And beforehand, it was, you could collect like bugs, you could collect fish, and over time, kind of like a Pokedex, it would show, you've collected this one and this one, but, this one's missing because you haven't found it yet. And maybe you haven't found it because, you have to wait until the fall or winter months to collect said bug or fish. But now there's a new section for things you find in the sea separate from the fish that you could fish for. That you can pick up. Yeah. And so it's exciting to grab those things. There's like a new character, like a new non-playable character that you can talk to when you collect, what is it? A scallop. When you get a scallop, this cute red otter kind of swims up nonchalantly and has a conversation with you. And generally if you give him the scallop, he will give you some sort of like DIY recipe that you can then craft stuff out of that generally you're finding in the sea. So that's a lot of fun. But yeah, the swimming mechanic is really simple, but in an Animal Crossing way, just like fishing and bug catching and everything else. It's simple, but there's like little bit of underlying depth there that kind of keeps you engaged when you're looking for these things.
Okay.
So, like you can tell that something's underwater that you need to try and grab when there's like bubbles coming up to the surface, and then you can kind of press a button to dive underwater and then swim underwater for a short time while you have your breath. But some of these things are living creatures that'll run away from you as you're trying to grab them. So you kind of have to be strategic about like when you're diving and swimming because they will notice your presence if you're, moving too fast. So it's fun. It's like another way of like re-engaging the player when I know a lot of Animal Crossing players, Tina and I included, have, we've kind of gotten to a plateau point with that game where we've upgraded our house to like a reasonable level where we don't necessarily need to have more rooms or whatever else. And we've collected a lot of, any given thing where, we kind of have the outfits that we like, we have the furniture we like. And it's like we're checking in for the daily check-ins, but it's like, what else is out there? And then they drop this update and they're like, oh, yep, we're right back in it, at least for now. So I was excited about that.
Yeah. I'll definitely be curious to hear what John thinks about it, too, because we both know he's definitely checked it out.
Oh, yeah.
And one game that he's been hounding us both, or one game that I've for sure played pre-update, but they just put out a huge update for Risk of Rain 2, which I think you checked out for the first time, right?
First time, despite you guys chatting it up so much, and I own it, and I've owned it for a while.
John loves this game. I didn't realize, he just recently was like, this is one of my favorite games. I knew he loved it, but I didn't realize he had it on that high of a shelf or whatever.
Yeah, we're gonna have to get him to talk about it at some point again in the future post this update.
Yeah, but I'm curious to hear your thoughts, Randall, being that you're just getting into it for the first time. We don't have to get too heavy because I'm sure we'll want to all talk about it together, but
totally.
And we should all play together too, but
I would love that. So
yes,
just on that point alone, Risk of Rain 2, playing it for the first time just post update. I played it for the first time just a couple of days before we recorded this, and immediately what jumps out to me is like, oh, this kind of feels like Phantasy Star Online a little bit to me, as far as like
interesting
the combat, like this kind of third person and like mindlessly shoot at stuff and do so in a multiplayer setting is kind of scratching that itch for me that I haven't had with another game since those days when I played that on GameCube with some of my friends. Like, whoa, that's pretty cool.
I would have never connected those two, but I see what I've never played much Phantasy Star Online, but I see what you're saying.
Yeah. And, now playing Risk of Rain 2, I love it. Like in the first couple runs, I'm like, oh, I get it. I love it. I'm addicted.
It's so addicting.
Like the run-based roguelike nature attached to just kind of like turn your brain off action third person thing totally works for me.
Yeah, it's like a little more immersive than, like, you know, if you're playing something like Dead Cells or Enter the Gungeon or these other roguelike procedurally generated things, you know, you're kind of, I don't know, something about, it being in 3D. Like I am able to just kind of like shut my brain off, and it's just all about the combat. And I don't know how many characters you've unlocked. I've only unlocked, I think, 4.
Not 0 in a sense, because I'm still using the first one.
I just recently unlocked, right before this update, unlocked a 4th character, but like they all play so differently.
Oh, man.
And there's, I think, like 8 or 10 at this point, and there seem to be more on the way.
Yeah. No, I'm loving it. And I did not play pre-update, and I know that it ran a little bit rougher on Switch before then, but where it's at now just feels like so smooth to me. And, you know, I'm sure that the graphics probably look a bit better on, you know, PS4 and Xbox One, but I'm loving having it on my Switch just for like, what do I want to play? Yeah, let's jump into a Risk of Rain. You know, let's see how far I can get in a run real quick and jump back out. Love it.
It's perfect for that. And again, being someone who has played pre-update and post-update, it wasn't anything that bothered me, you know, the pre-update. I mean, I did see it on PS4 and like was like, oh man, this does run much smoother. But I shouldn't say smoother, because it still ran smooth, but it just a little, you know, the gameplay was smooth, but the frame rate or whatever was maybe a little choppier. But now with this new update, and they added in like the artifacts, which are kind of like the game modifiers that you can unlock that just kind of change up the challenges and whatnot. And it seems like this is like the game has been kind of in early access up to this point. Yeah. And I don't know if this is like finally it coming out of early access, but it's definitely an update that's like been in beta on PC for a while that just got pushed to consoles. So really pumped to see like where this game goes from here. Yeah, it's really encouraging that they're making these wholesale, like massive updates to this game, and it's been out for a little bit already by this point. So but obviously this is still their baby, and I'm so excited that I jumped in when I did. Now, I'll be playing this for a while. Did you ever play the first one? Or if you got the cartridge, it came with it, right? It does, which is a really cool thing that I don't think any other game on Switch has done. But it does come with it on the cartridge. Nice. But I have not played it. No, I never played the first Risk of Rain. I recommend it. I definitely, I think we talked about it on the podcast, DJ and I, a long time ago, because he and I played quite a bit co-op, and like I got really hooked on it for a little while. Like, again, kind of had that, you know, that same kind of mindless approach, but like, it's really interesting how different the games are, but they're so similar. Like, it really, Risk of Rain 2 really is just Risk of Rain in 3D, right? But it feels like a totally different game. So I could see that. Yeah, that I could totally see how the gameplay concepts of, you know, you really have, at least so far for me, there's only a few different ways I can shoot. And that the shooting action wouldn't be that hard at all to obviously make a 2D just dumbed down action thing out of that. I probably should launch the original Risk of Rain. It's right there. But Risk of Rain 2 is right there, so why would I go back to the first one? I will say, we definitely got to play all three of us, because DJ's got it on PS4, so I don't think he can sync up with us. But the three of us have to sync up, because John taught me everything I know about Risk of Rain 2. Like, I'm just like, I feel much more comfortable knowing what I'm doing after I played a couple runs with John. So. Okay. Yeah, he kind of gets it. So let's sync up on that. I want to do that. Yeah, sometime this week, hopefully. This weekend, let's do it. Yeah, for sure. But before we get into the meat of the episode, there's a couple games from Matt Glanville that I wanted to touch on. And again, these were games that both of these games were included in the Itch.io bundle for racial justice and equality, but they're both available on Nintendo Switch. Nice. And the first one I'm going to talk about actually just came out on Nintendo Switch. He actually just put out 2 games on the same day. One is called
That's
Singled
crazy.
Out, which I haven't played. Yeah, I think it was made for the Game Maker's Toolkit Game Jam last year, and then like he fleshed it out into like a more full fledged experience.
Yeah.
But this one I haven't played, but I really want to check it out. And they're all of these games are like $5.
Yeah.
All three of his games on Switch. This one, again, I'm not really going to talk about, but it's just kind of like you control like a sniper rifle, and it'll be like there'll be all these characters on the screen, like super pixelated, like really chunky, big pixels.
Okay.
And they'll on the left side of the screen, you'll have like the shape of the head, or like the mustache, or the glasses, or the eyes, or like it'll have three things on the left side, and then you have to snipe there'll be like a crowd of 10 or 12 people,
who?
and you have to it's basically, yeah, it very much reminds me of that. Yeah.
That's funny.
But it looks pretty cool. But that one I have not played, but I definitely want to check out, and it just came out on Switch. But the other game that I have played is called Ghost Grab 3000.
Yeah.
And this is like a really straightforward arcade game. I shouldn't say straightforward, but like a really, once you get the concept down, that is what it is.
Yeah.
And you're basically, it's like kind of like, it controls like a twin stick shooter, except you're not, you don't shoot at all. So you're just mostly, you're in this kind of arena, kind of like Geometry Wars, like a set, like single screen.
Okay.
And you're moving around, and then you have a grappling hook that you can, there's ghosts, hence the ghost grabbing, and they're just kind of like floating around the screen. They bank off the, the edges of the screen and whatnot, and then they'll shoot all kinds of projectiles at you, and then you grab them with your, you don't have to even aim your grappling hook. Like, it's just whatever ghost you're nearest to will be kind of highlighted in blue.
Oh.
And then when you push the button, you'll grapple that ghost, and then you'll kind of like be tethered to that ghost. And as you like move away from it, you're able to, basically, if you touch another ghost with the tether, it tethers to that ghost, and you just have to chain as many as you can together. And the more you chain, the more points you get. And like as you play, again, it's really arcadey, but it has like a little bit of that roguelike flavor. Like you're able to you get coins through each run, and then you can buy like a new core that's like 150% speed of the normal core, or your normal like kind of robot that you're controlling.
Okay.
But it's but it has less health, 2 health instead of 3 hearts.
Okay.
And basically, yeah, you just have the ability. You have like a speed burst, which is limited by like a battery gauge that you have on the side, which you can again pick up as you kill enemies. And again, once you tether enemies, like you can at any point, even if you just have one enemy tethered, you can hit like your explode or your action button, and it'll explode any enemies that are tethered together. So whether it's 1 or 25. And this is just like an endless wave-based game. Like I've gotten to maybe like wave 12 or 13 on some of the levels, and it looks like there's just 3 levels. But it's just straight up like there's at least on the PC version, there's online leaderboards. I'm assuming they have that on Switch too. But it's just like, yeah, it's just straight up arcade action.
That sounds cool.
And it's like you have an EMP pulse, pardon me, that kind of works like a little bit like almost like a small, like not a screen clear, but like a radius that pulses out and stuns any enemies near you.
Right.
And then you do have a nuke that you can collect too, that you can blow up and use at any time, and it'll like clear any enemy on the screen, which will like in some cases allow you to clear like the whole. Not the whole wave, but like the final push of a wave.
Right.
But yeah, you'll get
keep
like
you from getting hit at the very least, I'm sure.
Exactly. Yeah. And then, but you pick up those EMP pulses like crazy. So like you can have a 9 at any given time, like as like your max that you can carry. But like you're able to hold, like the more I played, I was like, I should use these a little more liberally, because I'm just getting them like crazy. And then, yeah, you can pick up the nukes, and then but after each like wave, if you've taken damage, you get one of 3 pickups. So if you've taken damage, one of those pickups will be a heart. It seems, I think, every time. If you've taken damage, you can get a heart to recover some health.
Yeah.
Or it'll be, if you haven't taken damage, it'll be, and if not, again, the other 2 will still be one of these options, but it'll be like a speed burst. And again, I think you can only pick up maybe 4 or 5 upgrades per like path.
Yeah.
But it'll be like a speed burst upgrade, or upgrade your EMP pulse, so it'll have a larger radius.
Nice.
I forget what the other one is. But there's another upgrade. Oh, the width of your tether will like get wider and wider.
Makes
So
sense.
it actually, I only got 2 upgrades of that, but it got to the point where I was like, man, this thing is chunky. So like it just gets, I don't know. It's really all about dodging the enemies, and It kind of feels like that Robotron game a little bit.
Oh, okay, yeah.
If you're going like total retro, but it has like kind of that like single screen arcade feel. But I played like half hour, 40 minutes. And again, I did part of that 15 minutes of game series. I recorded a video and just really, really love this game. Definitely going to grab it on Switch next time I boot it up. I've still just been digging away at these indie games on the in that bundle. But yeah, and another game just real quick I wanted to mention from Matt Glanville was Switch and Shoot, which is actually the game I noticed in the bundle at first and was one that caught my eye because it was on my Switch wish list.
Right.
And this is another just like simple arcade, shoot 'em up, and I'm going to talk about a couple shmups later. But this is like, it's a one button game. I think again, at least the original concept was part of a game jam thing.
Okay.
And like every time you shoot, your ship changes direction. So you don't have any control of your ship at all.
Oh, geez.
And every time you shoot, you change direction. And to the point where it's like, it's a game where it would be in like Tate mode or whatever, like a really thin vertical screen.
Yeah.
And you do have like a screen wrapping ability. And then as you kill enemies, you just have to kill the enemies. I think if you miss them, they kind of hover at the bottom of the screen for a second. So it's really tough. You can kind of quickly rapid fire to almost to stay in place.
Right.
To not like switch directions and head back into the enemy. But then there'll be these power-ups that come down, and I think there's 4 or 5 tiers. So you start with kind of like a little wimpy laser, and then you get one more power-up. It's like a little fatter laser, and then you get the next power-up, and you can shoot like kind of like not a spread shot, but like kind of just 2, like a V shot almost. And then you pick up one more power up. It's like a triple shot. And then when you get the next power up, you kind of like have this laser. And then you can't screen wrap it. You kind of go into like almost like a little mini. It's not a boss battle, but it's like the end of the wave. And the sides of the screen will be blocked by like these laser beams or whatever.
Yeah.
And you have to just kind of like weave through and collect the power ups. But every time you miss a power up, every time you collect one, you power up. Every time you miss one, you power down.
Oh, geez.
So if you're in that laser mode and then you miss one or two and you drop down a couple tiers, like you can really get into a tight space really quick. But just like all of the games that I've played of his, at least these 2 games, just have like absolutely banging chiptune soundtracks.
Oh, I
like,
love it.
Just awesome, like so
difference.
Energetic. Oh yeah, it's like the type of tunes that just make you want to like immediately like let me play another. Let me play another. Like I'm just jamming, I'm bopping along.
Yeah,
and they, at least to the best of my knowledge, I don't think there's any way to beat either of these games. They seem like they're just endless.
Hey, they're arcade games.
High score kind of things. Yeah, and I really like that. I like that it's just like, let me try to either one up myself or in some cases go for the high score. But
that's
really recommend checking out the Matt Glanville stuff. Again, it's both games that I mentioned were included in the Itch.io bundle, but also available on Switch along with Singled Out, which I haven't checked out, but I can't wait to.
Yeah.
And he's got another game that's like some kind of dodgeball tactics game, I think.
Ooh.
Not on Switch, but only on PC. But I haven't looked into that one yet, but it looks really cool. So.
I'm down with something like that.
Yeah, I might be misspeaking about the way it plays, but it's some kind of dodgeball RP. I don't know. Some take on a dodgeball game that doesn't play like a dodgeball game.
That sounds sweet.
But before I get to some more shmups that I kind of teased last week, Randall, I know you've been kind of putting the meat of your time into one of the bigger games that's out right now. So what have you been spending your time on this week?
It's a meaty game. So I have been playing quite a bit of The Last of Us 2, as have many other people. But I'll say, and I know you guys generally feel different, but I was a huge original The Last of Us fan. I played not only the core game through a couple of times, which I rarely replay games that. But I also played the DLC add-on that was focused on the secondary character Ellie, who was a teenager at that point. So fast forward to Last of Us 2, and Ellie is now the main character of this game to kind of continue on that same story. Basically, kind of just picks up relatively where things leave off. Plus a few years, but it kind of, not to go too far into spoilers, but it kind of jumps around in the timeline a little bit too. This is definitely a AAA game with AAA production values that way. You can tell they've spent a lot of time making this. There's tons of cutscenes and all the fun things that Naughty Dog does when it comes to these type of action games. Although I won't go too deliberate on saying fun too much, because this is definitely a pretty oppressive atmosphere in The Last of Us 2. This is not your Uncharted, Indiana Jones style fun quips. This is a lot more, the really reeling with death and leaning into pretty violent aspects. Of the gameplay, which I'm generally not a very big fan of in a lot of games, but I loved The Last of Us, the original, so much that I was kind of excited to see this through. Even kind of knowing going in, there was some social media stuff around a lot of this before the game even came out that put me off to some degree, but I had already pre-ordered it with a good discount, so I kind of pushed forward. And I knew that the backdrop of much of this game was in Seattle, so that appealed to me too, on top of everything else. But it's still it's still kind of The Last of Us, same great crafting and hunter-gatherer stuff happening, where you're kind of going into broken down or burnt out abandoned buildings to collect random supplies that you can then craft into bombs or upgrades for your weapons or health kits or Molotov cocktails, to not only fight off the enemy creatures, which are all these kind of mutants that have been caused by this virus that's gone through the world. Another not so cheery backdrop to our actual reality.
Yeah.
That way, kind of unfortunate timing, actually, that this game was always going to come out.
Seriously, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, this is kind of like the last big game of on the PS4, pretty much. So excited to use my PS4 Pro again and hear that sucker scream like it's wont to do while I play a AAA game. It's just like I can't ignore it. It's just so loud. But anyway, I won't be. I don't
have the Pro, again. But mine's not that bad. Mine's never been loud enough to bother me. But I have the regular.
Yeah, I don't know if it's a PS4 Pro problem or if it's like just these kind of few AAA games like Uncharted 4 and Last of Us 2 that are just causing it to scream so much. But boy, yeah, it's like practically louder than our vacuum. I don't know. It's sucker's loud.
Well, I think all the pro gamers are playing with headphones on, so they don't have to worry about the sound.
That's where I'm messing up then. Yeah, that makes
I will say I've still, I think I mentioned it on a podcast a long time ago, but I have been playing games with headphones on a lot, like late at night if I'm like, it's kind of late and I kind of want to play like this intense shooter or something, but like I don't want to make a bunch of noise, I don't want to worry about the volume of my TV. Totally. And I've been popping on the headphones, and man, I get sucked into the games even a little bit more. Like it really, like turn all the lights off, pop some headphones on. It really kind of helps suck me into the game.
I should try that with this too. We do have it's not like the greatest surround sound, but it is technically a 5.1 surround sound in a living room, and it does help because a lot of times in this game, you're not going into guns blazing. You're kind of hiding behind something while there's enemies, either humans or creatures that you're generally trying to avoid / sneak up on when they walk past, type of thing. So you can do like a stealth kill or something. And it helps a lot to have, surround sound so you can like spatially kind of hear where they might be too.
Yeah.
And what you might be getting into. I do like that about The Last of Us, that it's not so super action heavy most of the time, and a lot of the sequences, even when they're action based, are have a puzzle element to them, where it almost feels a little bit more like a Metal Gear Solid or something, where like you're having to sneak around, some chair or bench or whatever to not be seen by the enemy, sneak up behind them, do a silent kill, kind of move on to the next target. Collect a couple of items that you might need and kind of keep moving through the house or whatever. A lot of that, which I'm into that style. There's also traps you can set, like these bombs that you can craft if you unlock it in your skill tree, where you can set these proximity bombs that enemies don't see until they step on, and that gives a fun little like almost like a spy versus spy vibe from like the NES days, which I love that type of stuff too. So those are the moments that I like the most. Either like I'm hunter gathering and I found like some secret area that was harder to get into, so then I got the pills that can update my capabilities, or I'm setting traps or like watching a scene unfold and figuring out my best way of approaching it. I'm about 8 hours in or so. It feels like I'm about halfway through, or maybe a little bit more. And I'll see it through. It is a little bit more depressing and oppressive than I would like, especially these days. But still generally pretty well made. The story is, to me, not quite as engaging so far as the first Last of Us was, but that's okay too. The gameplay is definitely hit all the marks there, so I'll see it.
That's good to hear, because it seems like any of or most of the gripes that I've been seeing online have all been kind of story related stuff. So it's good to hear that like the game itself play is great, and there are a ton of people that are still like championing this game big time. So I'm gonna see it through primarily because of the gameplay. They've already kind of lost me to some degree story wise, where I just don't feel as attached to what's happening as I did the first time around. But that's okay too, and it's hard to get that feeling again when you're talking about a sequel in the first place, I suppose. For sure, it's tough to recapture that. Totally. But I had a couple other shooters that are shmups that I mentioned last week, Randall, because I've been wanting to talk about these with you. One of them in particular, sweet, but both of them I think you would love. Yeah, and both of them I love. Again, both these games were included in that Itch.io bundle for racial justice and equality. Nice. I'm just going to start off with the kind of more straightforward of the two. It's called Task Force Kampas, and that's Kampas, Kampas, not like a college. Yes. So, don't get ahead of yourself here like Randall. But I mean, there's obviously no way to distinguish that. Right. But this game is really simple. It's like a single credit arcade game. Where you, again, bullet hell shmup, and the core mechanic is that it's not a single, it's single credit, but it's not one hit kill. Most ships, you have a few different ships you can pick from, but some of them are like, you can take 2-3 hits. Okay. Some of them, again, you have faster ships with a little less health, and ships that have a little more armor. Looks like there's a couple more to unlock, but you start with 3. But essentially, the core mechanic is you have a health bar on your left, and you have a power meter on your right. Okay. And the health bar, or I'll start with the power meter actually. So as you kill enemies, your power meter goes up, and it has a limit. Like once it gets fully charged, that's as strong as your weapon's going to get. Okay. But then as your power meter goes up, or if you take damage, your power meter will drop down. But then if you stop firing, you recharge health. So you're basically, again, I am always talking about risk reward on the podcast. And this is like, this game is just risk reward baked into a bullet hell shmup. I mean, it's awesome. And it's like, you get like, after you take a hit, you get like a short, you can stop firing, but you won't recharge health. You have probably like, it feels like 5 seconds. It's probably more like 2 or 3, but of like invincibility, where you have like kind of an orb like shield around you, but you can't recharge health at that time. But you can like spam the boss, so you can kind of like cheese some of the bosses and say like, take a hit, spam like crazy, wait for an opening, and then just stop shooting. And like, I haven't been able to get very far. I've only made it past the second, or not even past, only to the second boss. Jeez. And it's like kind of like a space. It's a vertical shmup, again, like kind of Tate mode deal. And it just really great pixel art style. It's got a bunch of like CRT filters, which I'm usually not a huge fan of, but they all look really cool. And it looks like there's a bunch more you can unlock. Yeah. Really great soundtrack, like awesome boss designs. Nice. Like the first one is like this huge giant squid. The second one's like this huge yellow crab. Nice. I don't know if it's all like water based or what, or water themed, or ocean themed, or whatever the deal is. But like Darius going on here. Yeah, fish. But it is really, really awesome. Just that, I don't know, that mechanic. Every time I die, I'm just like, another one. And then again, there's like, each level has kind of like a tier, like 2 tiers to it, where you're like right before, there's one halfway through and one right before you get to the boss, where you get to pick between 2 power-ups too, where it's like maybe a small health upgrade, or so it's not roguelike, but it has like a little bit of that DNA built into it, where it's like pick the health upgrade or pick the super shot or pick the double shot or pick, you can keep stacking those as you go along.
Right, on that run anyway. Yeah.
Yeah, and this game is, I believe, not on consoles yet, but I believe it is coming to consoles, and it's from Cassiopeia Wave.
Awesome.
Is the name of the developer, but really cool, really like just cute pixels too. Like I know I'm talking like these huge squid monsters or crab monsters, but like they're kind of cute. Like you blow up these gold asteroids sometimes, and there's like these little like, they're called cocos, but they're like these little mini like golden crocodiles that if you collect enough of them, they're like almost like act as like a little like turret that follows you around and shoots at enemies. So
nice.
Just really cool game, really charming. And again, there's dozens of shmups that were included in this bundle. But one more, this one, Randall, you have to check out. It's called Risk System. And again, risk reward just baked into this game.
Just in the name.
It is like, baked into the name. Yeah, not even just the game. But it is like, it has very strong like PlayStation 1, Sega Saturn, Dreamcast vibes. Like, very strong.
All right.
Nice, like really good, like actually pretty engaging cutscenes in between, like right before you get to a boss or right at the start of the game, like the tutorial, just like little like spoken dialogue, like voice acted and everything. Not amazing or anything, but better than most voice acting, and like just little like ditties before your boss battle and stuff. It's like it really kind of sucks you into the experience. It kind of gets like even leans into like a little bit of like, a darker tone as well.
Okay.
Which I appreciate, especially since there's just not usually anything to engage you in a shmup other than the gameplay.
Right.
Which is not a bad thing, but like this one is like just enough too. It's not overstepping its bounds, but like you have a health bar as well. You have a 3 tiered health bar. You can take 3 hits, I think even 4 hits, because as you kill enemies you can pick up health bars and refill those, but they're like segmented. But then you also have this breaker meter. It's a barrier breaker is what it's called, and that's filling up super slowly all the time, but also fills up quickly if you're close to enemy fire, which many bullet hell shmups use this as like a score mechanic. Like if I forget what they call it a lot of times, but like if you just kind of skim past the bullets, and they come right next to your hitbox, you get like extra points or, something like that.
Yeah.
This is recharging this barrier breaker, which, enemies in this game will be, this is a horizontal scroller, but enemies will be kind of coming from the background, and they'll even like target you sometimes. And one of the things that's weird about this game is it defaults to auto fire, which I didn't like at first. But once you get used to it, like it'll auto fire whenever you're lined up with an enemy. And you also have a button to like basically barrel roll, individual buttons to barrel roll upward, and then another button to barrel roll downward.
That's exactly what I wondered when you said you could get targeted from behind. Like, how does that work?
Well, so when you use your barrier breaker, not only does it make you invincible for like a split second or maybe like a second and a half, it also damages enemies that are in the background or enemies that you wouldn't otherwise be able to touch. And again, just everything on the screen usually turns them into health as well. So like, but like a lot of the boss battles are like down to like, I didn't catch this at first, but they're built to like, the bullet patterns, you actually have to, like, it'll be a beam that will wipe the whole screen, essentially, or like, from top to bottom. And the only way to get through it without taking a hit is to charge your barrier breaker and then use it at perfect timing, and then, use your invincibility to go through the beam.
Okay.
Like, so that a lot of the like, it has a little bit of like a puzzly element to it, where you really have to like nail these patterns down.
Right.
And like charge your breaker up enough, and like again, it's charging slowly all the time, but you really have to like get close to the enemies. But just the style, everything about this game, it's just action packed. It's just it just screams like 32-bit shmup, and you kind of control this like pretty big, like it kind of reminds me of like the mechs you control in Into the Breach a little bit. Like it's kind of this big flying, but like pretty hefty mech. Like it's got a little bit of weight and momentum to it.
Yeah.
It takes a second to get going. So that barrel roll, again, when you do that upwards or downwards, your rate of fire increases too. It's almost like you're spinning and like increasing your fire. So you're kind of using that as well to like take out the bosses, and everything about this game is fantastic. It plays like butter. It is coming to Xbox One soon.
Ooh.
I don't know if it's coming to other consoles, but it's definitely coming to Xbox One, I saw.
Okay.
And yeah, I just cannot recommend Risk System enough. I can't remember the name of the developer off the top of my head, but man. There's so many, I mentioned Switch and Shoot earlier. There's so many shmups in this bundle.
Newt
I can just go on and on and
for
on.
the developer, looks like.
Newt, N-E-W-T, right?
Yes.
That sounds familiar, yeah.
Newt Industries.
Nice. So yeah, be on the lookout for that if you have an Xbox, or again, if you picked up the Itch.io bundle, definitely check this game out, or just support the devs in the future, because
it sounds so good.
Really love both these games. And again, there's been a number of other shmups I've played, but these are the two that I would just say you got it. Switch and Shoot as well, but these last two are more in the bullet hell shmup vein, the Task Force Campus and Risk System,
right?
Where Switch and Shoot's more in that arcade vein.
Yeah.
But all three absolutely fantastic. Can't recommend enough.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I will check them out.
Yeah. But anything else we wanted to chat about this week, Randall, or pretty good to wrap it up? Or?
Let's wrap it up for this week.
Nice. Well, as always, you can find us online at pursuingpixels.com. We're on Twitter, Instagram, and like I've mentioned a couple times on the podcast, I've been cranking out some YouTube videos, many of which are part of the Itch.io bundle games. I think like 35 or so out of the 40 videos I've done so far are games from that bundle. So definitely, don't watch the whole video, just skim around and check them out.
I watched the whole video. That's fine. You can watch the whole video.
Watch it if you feel so inclined. But we are always posting gameplay clips on all of our platforms, and we have Facebook and stuff, but just look at the episode description, timestamps and everything in there, links and all that at the bottom of the description. And we'll catch you next week, and take care.
Bye-bye. Yeah, I watched that whole Samurai Lantern video.
The whole 20 minutes?
Yeah, I watched you beat that game. That was sweet.
That game is really fun, man.
Yeah, I have to tell you too that Tina had feedback for your gameplay stylings.
Nice.
She thought that you weren't using the screen wrap technique enough.
I know. I kept thinking that too. I was like, I did it like twice in the video, I think, and I was like, what am I doing? I was like, that I feel like that's probably a core mechanic of this game.
Oh yeah, and then she thought you were too involved with killing the bad guys. She's like, yeah. He's too involved with killing those bad guys. You got to focus on grabbing those lanterns.
Once I realized that they keep piling up, like if you don't kill them, they just keep coming. I was like, if I wipe them out, I can just take my time.
Yeah.
But that would be a fun one to like speed run.
It would. That's a cool game.